At approximately 5:15 p.m. this month, the fragile calm along the Donetsk-Luhansk front was shattered. What began as a quiet evening quickly became the theater for one of the most concentrated and forceful combined arms offensives of the war. Russian forces opened with a massive preparatory bombardment, aiming to pulverize Ukrainian forward defenses and pave the way for an armor breakthrough. The opening volley came from 240 BM-30 Smerch multiple-launch rocket systems, firing almost in unison. These 300mm rockets, each weighing over 800 pounds and carrying high explosive or submunition warheads, blazed across the sky in coordinated salvos aimed at Ukraine's defensive belts. Upon impact, the explosions obliterated hardened bunkers, crushed concealed artillery sites, and disabled crucial radar installations. The earth shook under the unrelenting fire, with dozens of rockets striking every second, creating a rolling thunder audible for miles. The design was clear: to rip open a corridor through which Russian armored forces could surge with minimal resistance. Almost immediately after the Smerch barrage, a second phase of preparatory strikes began. From rear positions, Russian forces launched around 40 Iskander-M short-range ballistic missiles. These weapons climbed on pillars of flame before accelerating to hypersonic velocities, making them extremely difficult to intercept. Their targets lay deeper behind the lines: ammunition depots, logistical hubs, makeshift airstrips, and reinforced command centers. Each missile's powerful warhead sent shockwaves through the terrain, shattered windows in nearby towns, and propulsed smoke and fire hundreds of feet upward. The combined barrage was meticulously planned to dismantle Ukraine's layered defenses, blind its sensors, and sever logistical links, even before the ground assault commenced. This sequence embodied Russian deep battle doctrine, to create operational paralysis through overwhelming firepower. With preparatory fires still ongoing, the engineering vanguard began advancing. 20 UR-77 Meteorite mine-clearing vehicles rolled forward under the cover of artillery. These tracked units launched explosive line charges, hoses packed with high explosives, over suspected minefields. The resulting detonations cleared lanes, each up to 100 m long and 6 m wide, intended for the main armored column to pass through. Immediately behind them marched the Spearhead, 55 T-90ME main battle tanks. Each 48-ton tank, outfitted with Contact 5 reactive armor and the Stora 1 active protection system, represented the height of Russian armored technology. Their 125mm smoothbore guns, capable of sending rounds at over 5,500 feet per second, were ready to engage any remaining Ukrainian armor. Supporting this armored thrust was a 900-strong contingent of elite VDV paratroopers. These soldiers, armed with AK-12 rifles, GP-34 underbarrel grenade launchers, and 9 M133 Kornet anti-tank missiles, advance alongside in infantry fighting vehicles and armored personnel carriers. Their role: suppress enemy infantry, protect tank flanks, and root out trench systems. The total force, hardware, munitions, and personnel was estimated to be worth over $1.1 billion, committed to a single, high-stakes push. For Moscow's command, the assault was crafted to be a flawless demonstration of military power, intended to tear apart Ukrainian lines and achieve a decisive breakthrough in hours. But unbeknownst to the attackers, Ukrainian defense under General Alexander Syrskyi was not built to absorb such a blow head-on. Drawing on hard lessons from fighting near Bakhmut, Syrskyi employed a defense-in-depth strategy. His objective was not to hold a rigid frontline, doomed to be shattered, but to absorb the initial strike, channel Russian armor into prepared kill zones, and then destroy it with coordinated precision attacks. Weeks of planning had created those lethal zones. Hidden in dense forests flanking the Russian axis were 40 M270 multiple-launch rocket systems, dispersed and camouflaged. Alongside them stood 48 HIMARS, M142, systems armed with GPS-guided GMLRS rockets. Their targeting data had been preloaded, key to probable Russian approach corridors, staging areas, and command nodes. Above, a rotational patrol of 12 F-16 Fighting Falcons provided air cover and real-time ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. Equipped with AIM-120 AMRAAMs and advanced targeting pods, these jets had a dual task: intercept Russian air support, especially attack helicopters, and feed targeting data to Ukrainian ground forces. On the margins, special forces teams lay concealed in forested positions. Armed with FGM-148 Javelin missiles and FIM-92 Stinger air defense systems, they were ordered to hold their fire until the Russian columns were deep within the kill zones, and then strike the flanks and rear. Sergei's gambit was a delicate balance of timing, deception, and technological edge, aimed at converting Russian numerical superiority into a weakness. At 5:42 p.m., disaster struck the attackers. A UR-77 vehicle launched a line charge across terrain hiding a Ukrainian ammunition cache. The sympathetic detonation triggered a massive blast. Dozens of Russian vehicles, armored transports, support units, engineering vehicles, were vaporized or shredded. The crater that opened before the column stopped the assault in its tracks. The explosion also risked prematurely exposing Ukraine's defense layout. In his command post, Sergei remained calm. He ordered his forces to hold, rationalizing that the Russians would interpret the blast as a successful strike on a major target, not realize they'd struck a trap. That brief pause was all the defenders needed. Within moments, the counterattack was unleashed. The 12 F-16s dropped from patrol altitudes, radar locking onto enemy aircraft. They launched AIM-120s at 7Ka 52 attack helicopters conducting overwatch. The missile volley overwhelmed the helicopters, destroying them outright and stripping the Russian advance of its air support. Simultaneously, Ukrainian HIMARS batteries commenced fire. 96 GMLRS rockets arced overhead, guided by GPS to impact on clustered T-90ME formations. In under 5 minutes, 22 Russian tanks were destroyed or badly damaged, many suffering turret ejections from internal ammunition detonations. Russian commanders scrambled to respond. Remaining Smerch systems switched fire towards suspected HIMARS sites. One salvo struck a Ukrainian forward command post, killing 3 and wounding 6, but the partial success did not halt the assault's momentum. In reply, Ukrainian M270 systems launched 40 rockets into Russian staging zones. Entire infantry companies were eviscerated. Command vehicles were shattered, communications collapsed. By 6:05 p.m., under an hour into combat, the Russian spearhead had lost nearly 30% of its strength. It was at this moment the Ukrainian special forces struck. From their forest positions, they launched javelins into the flanks of disarrayed tank groups, disabling another 7. Russian VDV troops dismounted and attempted to form defensive perimeters, firing cornets at suspected Ukrainian positions. One found purchase, destroying a Ukrainian armored vehicle, but isolated successes could not reverse the broader collapse. The battlefield devolved into chaos. Russian infantry scrambled for cover as rockets continued to rain down. By 6:20 p.m., what had been an organized push had become a desperate fight for survival. The loss of air support and the destruction of their armored spearhead shattered operational coordination. From hidden lines, Ukrainian rocket systems shifted fire to rear echelons. Guided strikes smashed into ammunition trucks, causing secondary detonations, fuel convoys, igniting massive fireballs, and command vehicles, obliterating linkages between commanders and their units. The F-16s, now unchallenged, dove low, strafing exposed infantry columns. Russian VDV troops, caught in the open, dove into ditches or abandoned buildings as 20mm cannon fire shredded their ranks. Each attempt to reform was met by further precision fire. Ukrainian special forces wove through trenches and forest cover, seeking high-value targets. Another 1790ME tanks fell to javelins, armor unable to withstand top attack profiles. By 6:30 p.m., fewer than 20 of the original 55 tanks remained fully operational. Russian artillery crews made a frantic 15-minute barrage of over 400 shells, but with spotter helicopters gone and command links severed, the fire was inaccurate, and most shells fell harmlessly. By 6:45 p.m., the surviving Russian line collapsed entirely. Infantry losses reportedly exceeded 350 casualties, with scattered survivors. Before 7 p.m., a combined HIMARS and M270 strike destroyed a primary Russian field command post, killing several senior officers. With leadership gone, remaining Russian units fought on blind until ammunition ran dry. Ukrainian mechanized elements then began a methodical encirclement, capturing hundreds of soldiers now incapable of effective resistance. By nightfall, the battlefield lay in smoldering ruin. What Moscow had expected to be a swift surgical breakthrough had degenerated into one of its most significant defeats in a single day. Russian losses were immense. Dozens of T-90Me tanks, support vehicles, elite troops, command infrastructure, and air assets were destroyed or captured. Ukraine's defense, built on depth, patience, and precision, had defeated superior numbers, turning force into liability. The images of charred tanks and captured paratroopers echoed far beyond this battlefield, sending a stark message about how modern warfare dynamics are changing.